10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. I'm glad to be here with you, and I'm thankful that you're here with us on this Tuesday, October the 7th, the anniversary of you-know-what happened in Israel. So to all of our Jewish watchers and listeners, today is a day of reflection, and we definitely mourn with you. There's so many tragedies in the world today, and it's important to mourn with those that mourn, comfort those that stand in need of comfort, and stand together for causes that are good and against causes that are not good. We are live on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio, cklu.ca on the internet, also streaming live at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. So make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow the channel and the page. Will be found on demand immediately following the live, along with being on x.com/Sudbury News and Sudbury.news, which is our news aggregator, our local news aggregator. We created Sudbury.news in answer to our federal government's policies that now make it impossible to share news. It's not possible to share news on the world's largest social media platform, which is Facebook and also Instagram, both owned by Meta. And so you can just go to Sudbury.news and you have all the local news, along with other news as well, provincial, national, international news. But it mainly lands, as soon as you go to it, on the local news feed. So make sure to comment. We'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those watching, read for those listening. We'll dive in with a little bit of weather just to begin things off. We're coming in a little bit late this morning, so we'll start off a little bit of weather. We'll be back after that with news headlines, your comments, and more. And Sudbury weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. Currently it's 10 degrees, mostly cloudy out there. Today we can expect it to remain mostly cloudy with clearing late this morning, and winds will be gusting up to 40 late this morning. The high will be 15, UV index 4 or moderate. A few clouds, increasing cloudiness after midnight. And then tomorrow, cloudy, clearing. Oh, the low will be +2 tonight, by the way. And tomorrow, cloudy, clearing in the afternoon. The high of 9, so it's getting a lot cooler tomorrow. The low overnight tomorrow night will be -1, right? So here we go. It's starting. So tomorrow, mainly cloudy with a high of 9, very cool. And then sunny and 14 on Thursday. 40% chance of showers on Friday with a high of 16, 17, mix of sun and cloud on Saturday, 18, same thing, mix of sun and cloud on Sunday, and then cloudy on Monday with a high of 16. So you got your mid, other than tomorrow being less than 10 degrees, you have kind of mid-teens to high teens for your temperatures. It's not including the humidex. And that's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. So thanks for joining us, everyone. We appreciate you being on, and a few morning shout outs this morning. Northern Hillbilly on YouTube. Good morning to you. And Vin as well on Facebook. You got Mary Ann. Good morning, everyone. From lovely Barry, liked and shared as usual. Pat, good morning. Folks, good morning to you as well. And Lorraine, good morning. As well as Nana here on YouTube. Good morning. Blessings, everyone. Heart emoji. And Belinda, happiness is not having what you want, but wanting what you have. Triple heart emoji, right? So happiness is not wanting. Happiness is not having what you want, but wanting what you have. Now that reminds me of a song from the 70s. If you can't live with the one you love, honey, love the one you're with, which is a little different. It's a little different. However, I really like that to get us started in the morning. Hazel, good morning. Prayer emoji, much needed, much appreciated. Northern Hillbilly off my... Oh, sorry. Oh, my. You don't get it. Oh. I'm not sure what I didn't get or what someone didn't get here, but I'm going back through to see if there's something. But okay, so Shirley, good morning, Sudbury. Have safe and blessed day. Many peace-like emojis, much needed as well. Liette, good morning, everyone from rainy, looks like Collingwood. Heart emoji. And Denise, blessings, everyone. Thanks for being on. And you go on to say, I see Sudbury has a Palestinian protest in front of one of the MPPs. They are festering and more planes are landing and they are spreading out. Okay. And Marvin, good morning to you. Larry, good morning, everyone. And also Marianne says, wild morning, 5:30 a.m., rudely woken up. LOL. Wild storm. Oh, interesting. That's why it's raining in Collingwood, I guess. So as to Denise's mention of the Palestinian protests, our society is just, again, protests everywhere, civil unrest everywhere. In the States, you have the ICE and then you have the Antifa. It doesn't look great for Western countries. It doesn't look good for any countries in terms of contention, whether it's planned or not. I think it's important to ourselves take the high road on any given issue, conversations, and trying to see eye to eye. However, some conflicts are out of our realm of understanding in some ways, like the Middle East conflict, as today being October 7th, right? Very layered, very complex, very, hard for even the most knowledgeable people about that particular issue to come to any conclusion as to what the best resolves would be for that situation. So to have just one of us have a stance on it, it's very complex. And so always gain as much knowledge as you can about anything before even getting in the game to, like, the best thing to do is, I don't know much about that, unfortunately, Oh, wait, I see my friend's got the pin on. I must be on that side then. No. Like, it's good to know things before you get all involved, especially to the point of violence or things where you're getting in arguments with people and, having contentious discussions with people. If you don't really know what you're talking about, it's probably best to just say, I don't really know what I'm talking about with this. Maybe I need to understand. And you don't just hear one side and then that's what you believe. Like, you really do need to delve into things a lot. Or you don't. You can do whatever you want, actually. You are the boss of you. But if you, want to, not get into fights with people and into a lot of contention, it's always good to be as informed as you can and respectful as you can when you engage anybody in a conversation. As respectful as you possibly can. Good morning, Jerome. Watching beautiful sunrise at Valley East Industrial Park. Yes, you seem to be parked there sometimes. In the Valley East Industrial Park. Seems to probably a home base, I'm not sure, for work. And Liette, yes, commenting to each other here. Just want to dive in with some local stories, and then we'll get into a little bit of more of what's going on in Canada, some deeper reflection today. Sudbury speed cameras seem to be in the news quite often, and coming from our Sudbury.news aggregator, we have the story where we're going ahead. And Larry, good morning to you. Thanks for being on, along with Lorraine. Doug Ford, he's not a fan of the speed cameras, but the headline from Sudbury Star this morning, coming from our news aggregator, Sudbury.news, Greater Sudbury ignores Premier, moves its 6 speed cameras. And so Doug Ford wants them outlawed. Others, including Ontario's 4 school boards, want them to remain. Now, this is the thing. School boards, I can see. It would be really great to have these speed cameras if we are going to keep them. And good morning, Rogue. Thanks for being with us. In front of schools, that's where we would want these speed cameras to be. That's probably the most important place and anyone would get behind that as far as I can see. And Hazel says, yep, it's going on today. And sorry, my eyes, it's hard for me to read this morning, the light in here, because it's cloudy outside and the natural light that I have is very limited, hard to read. So let's get on with the story. Greater Sudbury is ignoring the Premier's desire to get rid of the cameras, and school boards are backing, keeping them in. But the thing is, we don't have them in Sudbury in front of school zones. We have them everywhere else. We have them on highways, for crying out loud. So while Premier Doug Ford is promising to outlaw speed cameras in Ontario, the city of Greater Sudbury, for now at least, is continuing to use them. In fact, the city has just moved 6 automated speed cameras around the city. After a commissioning phase, they will be activated on October the 10th, the city said in a release. So the city said in a release they're going to activate them in 3 days. So Main Street in Valcarron gets one between Trudeau Street and Anton Avenue, Bancroft Drive between the Kingsway and Bellevue, Algonquin Road between Regent Street and Trail Ridge Drive, Municipal Road 80 in McRae Heights. That's the second time they're putting a camera in the same place there. Also on Main Street in Valcarron, the second time they're going there. Garson-Coniston Road between Mackey Street and Falconbridge, I believe that's the second time in that location. And it might even be as well on Howie Drive between Downing and Somerset Streets. I believe a lot of these, if not all of them, are second time. They're being put there for the second time. So be careful as you're driving in those areas after the 10th. Not everyone drives the speed limit. Police officers don't drive the speed limit. I see it all the time. I drive all the time. Very few people go exactly the speed limit. And our cameras are giving people tickets for going 5 over, 7 over. And it's just, as Premier Doug Ford put it, and good morning, Andrew, thanks for being on. He believes it's a cash grab, and I think there's a lot of people who feel the same. We had a post up from the city on our Facebook page, and many, many people, there are very few people that are for them, by the way. Many people just want people to drive safely, which we should. But there's other ways to be able to do that. And it doesn't always end up with the city making millions of dollars because of it, right? Like when that's the end result, you have to be a little leery. The Alberta government's already come out and said they were sorry for what they did. It was a cash grab. At the end of the day, that's what it was. Sudbury's just clinging to this idea it's for your safety, not for the money. And again, it's people see through that. And at least some politicians are coming out and calling it what it is, which we are thankful for. And the premier, like he said, and this is going back to the Sudbury Star article, calls it a cash grab, claims they don't slow drivers down, which they do. The cameras do slow drivers down, but as one of the comments said on our post on Facebook, people will slow down in the camera zone and then just speed right back up right after it. So that little spot is safer, I guess, if you want to say driving the speed limit as opposed to 10 over. Is it any less safe? So if I'm going 60 in a zone, is it more safe than going 65 or 70? Like how much more dangerous is it going 70 than it is to go 60? I'd love to see the stats on that. Or 65 as opposed to 60, how much more dangerous it is to go 5 kilometers over the speed limit. But it will cost you a lot of money if you're found in any of these camera zones to be going that speed. Also, crime is up in Northern Ontario by our youth, and that's that's according to one of our. We're seeing more violence. This is CBC. To fight and prevent youth crime in Northern Ontario, the number of adolescents charged with a criminal offense in Sault Ste. Marie and Sudbury has been rising every year since the pandemic, and that's violent crime. So one of the reporters at Sudbury.com may want to read that article as they continually downplay the fact that violent crime is on the rise in Sudbury. Their headlines always skew that and spin it so that way, oh no, it's actually getting better somehow, which is not true. And hear this article if you want to read it from our Sudbury.news and read about that. Okay, so getting to a few national stories. What's going on in the country? It's kind of scary, all the new laws and things like that are happening. These bills that are going through, they're kind of scary. And, you know, it just seems like, yeah, it's very interesting. And they're changing our laws, and we didn't even know what our laws were in the first place. And this is an interesting tidbit from a gentleman I found here about our Canadian Constitution, right? It just makes a lot of sense. See what he's got to say here. Okay. Not sure how many times I have to click something in order to work, but there you go.
Do we even have a constitution?
I'll explain what we do have, and I think it'll shock people. And, this, maybe you should title this show, Forbidden Knowledge. And for those of you that feel that you should only have knowledge the government wants you to have, then, turn the TV off. I'll ask your audience and all of you out there, be honest. So how many of you have read the Canadian Constitution? And if we were all in a room together, I would see a few hands go up, like only a few. And then if I was to ask those few, I said, did you actually read the whole Constitution? I'm not talking about the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, because many people have read our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is just a small part of the Constitution Act of 1982. I'm hard-pressed to find a Canadian, including lawyers, who have actually read our entire Constitution. Now, let's put this into perspective, because the most important law that governs your life is our Constitution. That's the document that sets out what each level of government can do. It sorts out basically how the government has control over your life, how the government has control over your land, how the government has control over everything. No document has more power over you, is more important to you in your entire life, and yet none of us have read it. And yet most of us, pretty well everyone watching this show, will have gone through at least 12 years of government-funded education. Even if we went to private school, the curriculum would have to be approved of by the government. And yet none of us have read the most important document governing our lives. And you really have to ask the question, why is it that I have not read the Canadian Constitution? And when you read it, you know why the government doesn't want you to read it.
So that's interesting, right? So we'll ask this audience, how many of you have read the Canadian Constitution, right? So we don't even know what our rights really are to begin with. And then you see what's happening in our parliament these days with interesting laws that they're coming up with and bills that they're proposing, right? And so the guys from Blender do a really good job at explaining these things. So I'll continue with that.
Freedom online is about to become conditional. The Liberals recently tabled Bill C-8, which gives the federal government power to cut the internet off for any specified person. No questions asked, no warrant required, and no oversight until after the fact. So once this bill is passed, the industry minister, Melanie Jolie, can order telecom companies like Rogers or TELUS to cut off service for any person at any time. And of course, this blueprint for surveillance and censorship is being passed off as for the safety and security of Canadians. If you ask the Carney government, they claim this is about fighting hackers, ransomware, and foreign interference. But the language in the bill is so broad, it justifies cutting off a journalist exposing corruption, a parent pushing back against questionable school policies, or a political activist organizing a protest. And Bill C-8 doesn't stop there. It allows the government to compel telecom providers to hand over data, implement surveillance measures, and even weaken encryption standards. So it's a sweeping grab, granting Ottawa powers to watch, control, and manipulate the online world. Powers that were previously unimaginable in a free society. And let's not forget the hypocrisy here. Not long ago, the Liberal government repeatedly defended internet access as a human right. Canada was a founding member of the Freedom Online Coalition, signing joint statements against state control over the internet. Back in 2019, Ottawa condemned governments who suppressed online civic spaces by obstructing free expression and peaceful assembly. Just 3 years ago, the Liberals affirmed that rights and freedoms offline must also be protected online. But now, they're introducing legislation that turns this principle on its head. Now, let's think about what this means in practice. If your internet gets cut off, you're not only silenced, digitally isolated, perhaps unable to work or communicate with the outside world, you will also be cut off from critical information and services like banking, or worse, if digital IDs burrow their way into our lives. What then? The effect, aside from the obvious here, is that Canadians will start censoring themselves, afraid of being the next specified person targeted by these tyrannical policies. And of course, this gets significantly worse when you combine it with Bill C-9, the so-called Combating Hate Act, which allows the Liberal government to redefine the term hate in broad and subjective terms, and Bill C-63, the online hate speech bill, essentially a hybrid of both. So under these laws, online hate speech can be redefined at will. You can be deplatformed for sharing opinions deemed hate speech and even face life in prison. Together, these bills create a potent weapon for surveillance, censorship, and social control. So, Canadians need to see this for what it is, a radical expansion of power that undermines the very freedoms Canada once championed. If this passes, it puts the very foundation of digital freedom in this country at risk, and as usual, it does so under the guise of protecting democracy.
So again, it's usually a Trojan horse. They'll use the very language of what people really want it to be, like an online hate speech. People don't want people to hate each other, right? So they say, we're going to combat this, but it actually does the opposite thing at the end of the day. Okay, so let's see here. So I had something here. So let's see if we got it. Yeah, here you are. So these bills that we have no clue that are happening and what they're for, basically, right? So we're explaining here. Here's Bill C-9. There's so many Bill C this, Bill C that. It's crazy. I could probably make a comedy skit on Bill see this, Bill see that. We should be doing that to explain what's going on in Canada. It's unprecedented in terms of the changing of the landscape. But here you go. Here's some more information coming from the second reading of the Combating Hate Act.
Speaker and my honourable colleagues, I rise today to address Bill C-9, the Combating Hate Act, and specifically the changes to Section 319.6 and the introduction of Section 319.7 of the Criminal Code. I strongly support protecting religious freedom and ensuring that all Canadians are safe from hate and violence. But Bill C-9 does not do that effectively. I have three serious concerns about Bill C-9. First, it omits the protection of Christians, despite the fact that more than 100 churches have been burned and vandalized in Canada since 2021. Second, it removes the safeguard of the Attorney General's consent under Section 319. This risks hate speech being weaponized as a political tool by any party in power by letting the government decide, the government minister decide who gets charged. Third, it waters down the definition of hatred to something so vague and so subjective that it risks encroaching on the very Charter of Rights and Freedoms contained in Section 2B. Beginning with my first objection to Bill C-9, I find it quite perplexing that Christian hate was not even mentioned in the bill. In recent years, we have seen alarming hate-motivated attacks, including burning and vandalism of churches across Canada. Just last week, a century-old Ukrainian Orthodox church in Edmonton was burned to the ground. As we witness a record number of sacred spaces being destroyed, Christians have noticed the government's silence. Congregations have been left in fear, and people of faith feeling abandoned by their government's lack of enforcement of existing laws. In this context, it is shocking that a bill about combating hate is completely silent on the rise of Christian hate. The government's press release mentions anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, and transphobia, yet it makes no mention of the rise of hate crimes towards Christians. This bill does not add new protections for worshippers. Instead, it expands state powers by removing the legal safeguards and watering down the definition of hate speech. It paves the path towards politicizing restrictions on speech. It even risks criminalizing dissent to what some would call thought crimes. We must exercise caution. Once such powers are granted to the government, they can be weaponized by any government against its critics. The existing criminal code already covers the most serious offenses. Section 318 makes it a crime to advocate or promote genocide. Section 319 criminalizes public incitement of hatred and willful promotion of hate and speech that would lead to a breach of peace. These provisions already strike a careful balance between protecting Canadians from true hate and safeguarding freedom of expression. Bill C-9 attempts to redefine hatred so vaguely that it risks capturing legitimate debate. We've seen how this plays out elsewhere in the world. In the UK, a man was arrested for holding a blank protest sign because authorities said it could be interpreted as offensive. In Australia, parents were investigated for hate speech after questioning gender policies at their school. In New Zealand, academics were threatened with jail for quoting banned manifestos. Canada is not immune. We are crossing into a dangerous line of removing the provincial attorney general's consent and oversight, and leaving charges in the hands of a minister appointed by the Prime Minister. This Liberal government has given us reason to believe that they will weaponize hate speech laws against their political opponents for political gain. Bill C-9 introduces a second significant change by adding a subjective, emotionally driven definition of hatred that lowers the threshold threshold that was essentially set by the Supreme Court of Canada. As you know, as many of you know, this is important because hatred is not defined in our criminal code. Rather, it is the meaning is developed over decades through case law, the most notable being 2013 Supreme Court case of Saskatchewan v. Whatcott. In that case, the term hatred was defined as must be interpreted as meaning extreme manifestation of emotions described by words, detestation, and vilification, and should not include representations that merely discredit, offend, or insult. That objective standard set by the Supreme Court protects freedom of expression while targeting real harm. This Liberal government seeks to overturn that Supreme Court definition with Bill C-9 by replacing that decision with Section 319(7), which is found in C-9. In this new section, the Liberal government wishes to redefine hatred as the emotion that involves detestation or vilification, and that is stronger than disdain or dislike. By removing the word extreme, it lowers the threshold that the Supreme Court has set and that has been put in place to protect free speech.
So they're radically changing the landscape of the law of Canada to the foundation of the core beliefs, the principles that Canada is built on. They're radically changing them. And some may say that's great. It's been too long the same, the old boys club, the patriarchy, all this, that, and the other, right? So, but as we're getting these new laws coming into play, it's just because your team is bringing them in. It's like cancel culture alone, right? Everyone was all for canceling people until the cancel culture comes for you. And that's what eventually happens. Cancel culture is a cancer culture, because who is to say, who is the judge, who is the arbiter of all truth and understanding of all things? Who can say they know all things at all times, and you just cancel people? And, the first person was canceled in Canada. All of the people on one political side were cheering until eventually they started getting canceled too. People in the media who have political leanings, they were cheering on the canceling of someone on the other side at first, were now getting canceled as well. And so these laws, a lot of people are cheering them on because it's their team. And you can see Christians are at the bottom of this. They're not even mentioned in hate. So it's like if you hate on a Christian, it's not even covered in the law, right? And we can see how many churches, there's more evidence that there's hate for Christians than there are any other group. If you look at the evidence of churches being burnt down, how many other religions have had as many churches burnt down or edifices that they worship in burnt to the ground? We just saw in Michigan, one state over from our province, a shooting going on in a Christian church, and the same religion had their chapel burnt down in Australia as well. So it's not just happening in one country, it's happening all over the world. And there's genocide going on right now in Nigeria, where thousands of Christians are being killed, but you don't hear about that in the news because for some reason, I'm not sure why, it's not as bad, or it's not even mentioned. Or some people cheer on the death of Christians, right? It's crazy. And so at the end of the day, here's another kind of evidence that they're trying to take away, churches' ability to be churches. Like there's a war, a government war against Christianity. I'm just going to continue to show that that's what's going on. And that's something we have to, work back against and before it happens, stop it before it happens. All these laws. Here's one example.
Christian churches shouldn't be losing their charitable status under this government. Thank you. The petition says, we, the undersigned citizens and residents of Canada, call upon the Government of Canada to reject Recommendation 430 of the FINA pre-budget report, reaffirm Canada's commitment to an open culture, and support each citizen's freedom to promote the common good through the advancement of religion without punitive financial measures. Again, Christian churches shouldn't be losing their charitable status under this government. Thank you. Christian churches shouldn't be losing their charitable status under this government. Thank you. The petition says, we, the undersigned citizens and residents of Canada, call upon the Government of Canada to reject Recommendation 430 of the FINA pre-budget report, reaffirm Canada's commitment to an open culture, and support each citizen's freedom to promote the common good through the advancement of religion without punitive financial measures. Again, Christian churches shouldn't be losing their charitable status under this government. Thank you.
So, and I do realize I played that video twice, and I did it for a reason, just to let it sink in. What is a charity in the first place? Like, what would signify a charitable organization? Volunteers getting together to do good for society in some way, shape, or form. I've been involved with churches since the early 1990s. I haven't been paid 1 cent for any of the work that I've done for my volunteering and for anything that I've done. And we've done a lot of good. The church I belong to has given billions of dollars away to charities, including even locally, $25,000 recently to the Sudbury Food Bank. Given over $100,000 to Indigenous organizations for medical supplies in the area. There's all kinds of wonderful things that religious organizations do for our community. So why is the government attacking that? Like, why is that a priority for our government in any way, shape, or form? That's just a question I'll leave you with today. Why do you think that's something that's of concern to them when there's so many crises going on? Housing, the addictions, mental health, crime, you name it, immigration, all these crises that are going on, and they're focusing on that. So I wonder what's up with that. Like, why is that a priority for our government today? I'll leave that question with you. Today, it's all the time we got. Unfortunately, I hope you enjoyed today's show. Thanks for being on. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for commenting. And we'll be on same time, same place, God willing, on the same platforms tomorrow. So remember to stay aware, like, share, take care, and stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Ciao, everyone. Have a great and wonderful Tuesday.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.